Hello everybody, welcome. Today I want to talk about adventures, specifically one-page adventures. Now let's pause that for just 1 second because I want to get a little bit more general with adventures in Dungeons & Dragons. Back in the mid-2000s I used to collect Dungeon Magazine by Paizo. And for those of you who are new to D&D, this is what Paizo did before Pathfinder, back in the 3rd edition / 3.5 era. This was a great magazine. It came out monthly, and it had all kinds of really cool adventures. And of course, this trend continued through 4th edition. Dungeon Magazine was taken over by Wizards of the Coast itself. And now in 5th edition, we have a lot of great published adventures like Curse of Strahd, Storm King's Thunder, Out of the Abyss, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, etc. Now these are all really cool adventures and even campaigns, really, if you want to get into these big published books. However, there is one thing about them. They're long. There's a lot of reading. You got to go through a bunch of different things. Now you can find all kinds of cool stuff whether you run the adventure in completion or if you just take little bits and pieces out of it and plug it in your own way or kind of remix it. Now, at the back of every issue of Dungeon Magazine, there was this. There was always a one-page map. And that always caught my attention quite a bit, because while these big adventures were really cool, it was neat to just have everything on one page and it not be overcomplicated. And it allowed you, the DM, to add things to it. This was like a framework that you could build on top of. Or you could just improv it. If you like improv, I personally like to do a bunch of improving. I do a bunch of prepping too. I guess I'm kind of a yin-yang with that. But the simplicity of it really appealed to me. So lately, I have actually been back in this mode of the one-page mindset. This is something that has been captivating me recently, and I've been doing some of my own one-page adventures. So yes, it's not a huge dungeon. I guess it could be. You would have to format it a little bit differently on the page, but it actually has everything about the adventure right here on the page. And it also lends really well to very stylized kinds of adventures. And when I mean stylized, I mean the tone and the look of it has a real specific flavor to it. Now, of course, you can do that with a big adventure that spans multiple pages or even an entire book. Absolutely you can. But you gotta do it page after page or for an entire book. That's a lot of tight focus on atmosphere and tone and flavor across a long span of time. So it is really effective and efficient to put it all onto one page. The ones I've been doing have a bit of a, how can I say this, a touch of campy, which I like that, and I don't know, a pulp flavor to them, I would say. So I'm actually going to show the video of me drawing this one here, which is called Barrow on the Moor. So I'll cut to that. I'm going to do a bit of commentary. I'm going to, of course, do a time-lapse it so that way you can see me drawing it quickly. And then, yeah, so hopefully that gives you some ideas. So everything begins with one little idea, one little seed. In my case, what I did was I simply flipped through the monster manual looking for a monster that gave me some inspiration. I came upon the Carrion Crawler. Now that's a monster that I've for a long time thought was freaky, and I liked its combat abilities. The fact that it can crawl around, has a spider climb, it has a paralytic poison, and its nasty grub-like freaky appearance and tone is something that's appealed to me. So I read in there that they will often live in crypts, barrows, caves. I think it said like a swamp cave. So I got this idea of a dwarven barrow on the moor, a sort of swamp tomb. It also gets a little bit of inspiration from my live streaming campaign I've been doing, Land of Dreams and Nightmares. So I made an upper walkway, and I'm using these stairs to show that this other passages going underneath it. That area I just finished is the actual crypt or a little catacomb area, and then up above it is the temple or the shrine. So as I'm drawing this, I'm brewing the ideas in my head. I'm putting down these lines. I'm letting my imagination take the lead, really. I'm just flowing with it. And as I go, I just keep thinking. I just keep rolling over these concepts. Carrion Crawler. What am I seeing in my head? What kind of story am I imagining? You know, I'm really into story and atmosphere and what's happening. So, okay, here's this crumbled chamber down here, and maybe the Carrion Crawler brood mother has laid a clutch of eggs there. And that those eggs are going to have some kind of effect or interact with the adventure in some way. So these are the sorts of things. I just kind of brainstorm it out as I'm going along drawing it. Here's the front or facade of it, and then after that's the exterior. I'm putting down some more stairs. Elevation is a really cool thing to put into dungeon maps and encounter maps. When you have variations of elevation, it leads to more dynamic encounters. Those actually are not the best stairs I've ever done. I'm a little not so happy with them, but it's okay. I mean, they turned out fine. They look well and they look good enough. Now, continuing on up here, I figured, okay, that's going to be a vault. They got to get past the crypt and the temple and whatever might be in there, and then they can get to this vault. And this is a fork. One leads to a trap. I like that. And then the other one's leading to a larger chamber where I think there's going to be a main combat encounter with the Carrion Crawlers. And then back here is a burrowed out tunnel or den. The Carrion Crawler brood mother is going to be back in there, and I think, aha, if the player characters smash those eggs or destroy the eggs, or maybe they take them, there's like a pheromone, and the brood mother can smell that, and then she will come out and also engage in that combat encounter along with the other regular Carrion Crawlers. So that will make the fight much more difficult if the player characters have messed with her eggs before they get there. Now I'm putting hatching. This is an important step if you want to make your map look really cool. It's going to give it depth. It's also going to give it clarity so that the players can really tell which area is like solid stone and which area is the rooms and passageways that the characters can walk through. This is not the only method of hatching or detailing the walls. It is a really cool looking one, so yeah, it's neat to do, but there are many other ways, and you can create your own ways. In fact, this is not my preferred method of doing the detail work into the walls in solid stone. I actually just like to create my own methods. I'm working on some different techniques, and it also kind of depends on the adventure. What aesthetic do you want it to have? But anyways, you can get into detailing and designing in all kinds of different ways. The important thing is just make your map pop. Make like a texture or darker area on the internal solid bits, and then leave the open spaces open. As I'm hatching this, I'm continuing to think about the story of this adventure. This whole thing unfolds fairly quickly, over the course of like an hour or two as I'm drawing this out. So this is not a very, you don't have to use your brain very much while you're hatching here. You just kind of go about it. And so this is a great time to really think, what's happening at this dungeon? What happened before the adventurers got there? What was the backstory leading up to it? Like what events have been set in motion? It's really good when you're designing an adventure and dungeons to have some kind of background. Make the events already set in motion. There's already some kind of momentum or something happening, and the player characters show up, and there they are. They're like getting right into the mix of it all. They're getting swept up in the current or the whirlwind of this crazy thing that's going on. So now I'm putting the title down here. You, of course, could put the title at the top, but I just liked it down there. I had space down there, and, well, that's close to the entrance to the dungeon. So I think later I'm going to actually put on there a little enter here or begin some indicator. So there's the name, Barrow on the Moor. I'm actually not the best yet at calligraphy or lettering, really lettering. It's something that I'm still working on. So I like just making a little icon that gives an idea of what it might look like from the outside. And actually later on I ended up not quite liking this little barrow design that I did down here, and I've redone it. So later on, once I do the final edit on things, I'm going to bring in and replace that with the new version. The new version is not completely different, but I just like it better. So now that I've in my mind develop all the ideas of, I put this 1 square represents 10 feet. It's important to put a little key on your map to show the scale. Okay, so I've developed all these ideas in my head, and now I'm ready to start writing it. So the cool thing with one-page adventure is that you can just write the bits of the adventure directly on the page, right at the location of the dungeon where they happen. So I'm writing this right by the entrance, and this is the lead up. The player characters come upon the barrow. They're going there to meet with Logrum leaden staves, this dwarven warrior or battle priest who was visiting this barrow for an important reason. And when the player characters arrive, he's there out front holding his battle standard. He's at one knee, his head is bowed, he's in full battle regalia, but he's not moving, he just stays there. When the player characters go up and they nudge him, he collapses, and they see inside he is a putrid skeleton. Something has eaten him from the inside out. What the hell happened inside of this barrow? So this is going to lead into the adventure. The player characters are starting off with a bit of a twist. They came here to meet with Logrum and maybe do some sort of a burial rite, or you can craft some reason why they came to meet him. And right from the get-go, there's a twist. A monkey wrench has been thrown into the whole thing, and it gives it a slightly campy yet macabre tone of something freaky is happening inside of this barrow. So I'm going to go around from place to place on this one-page adventure map and just put in the details of what's happening in every little section. So there is the entrance chamber. The player characters find some dwarven script on the walls. Maybe they can read it, maybe they have to try to decipher it. There's indications that something has been through here already. There's some slime. Here's that crypt. If they disturb a sarcophagus, an angry spirit comes out and summons crawling claws from the alcoves. There's a locked door with a trap. There's the shrine and the vault and the fire trap up there. Those all have some complications and challenges. There's the encounter with the Carrion Crawlers and the brood mother, and the bit about her clutch of quivering eggs. So I've put little details all over this map, and it's all pretty self-explanatory and user-friendly. The DM simply follows the guidelines or the descriptions of what happens in every area as you go along. So here is the final version of Barrow on the Moor. I'm quite happy with how this turned out, and I learned a lot of things throughout the process of doing it. I look forward to doing some more. I will be releasing this one for free. There's a link down in the dungeon of the video. So that was my main process of drawing the entire one-page adventure of Barrow on the Moor. There were a couple small things that I wanted to edit, including the little title image where I drew the barrow. I didn't quite like how that turned out. I had to edit one word on the page, and maybe there's a few little tiny glitches that I could erase. I'm also going to upload this one-page adventure for free. So just follow the link in the video description down there, and then at the end of the video there'll also be a link to my Patreon page. It's all linked together. Every month I release a lot of free things, dungeon maps, and a free newsletter, so go get in on that. So I would like to do some more videos that show me drawing dungeon maps or even monsters. Maybe they'd be tutorial style, or maybe they would just be me in this time lapse of the drawing, and I have a commentary on top of it that talks about various types of subjects. So if you like this video, if you got something out of it, make sure to subscribe, leave me a comment and let me know. I'd be happy to make some more in the future. And as always, may your adventures be many, my friends.